Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Tier 9 German premium medium tank, the Kunze Panzer. Now, initial impressions on the Kunze Panzer are, it's a pretty decent little tank. It can be quite a lot of fun. It's got this unique niche with its siege mode, which makes it more accurate and have better DPM in it. Still has 15 degrees of gun depression, which is really good. You just have to get used to the siege mode, and if you've played any of the other siege mode tanks, you'll know that the gun can be a bit bobbly when you use it, and it can be a little bit frustrating with some of the shots. The reticle always seems to lag behind a little bit where you're actually aiming with siege mode tanks, and that's no different for this tank. So if you're not a big fan of siege mode on any tanks really, you're probably not going to enjoy this one too much, but on the whole it's a really solid tank because, like I say, when you're in the siege mode, and even when you're outside of the siege mode, to be fair, the gun handling on it is pretty solid. Its DPM is okay outside of the siege mode, but pretty good, well, really good inside of the siege mode. So the gun handling is nice, you've got nice shell velocity, good pen. The mobility at 65 kilometers an hour is really nice for the tank as well. And like I say, it's just got that unique niche really with the manual siege mode, and by that I say that it's not actually automatic like the Swedish medium tanks. It's like the T95E257, is it, the Cold War premium medium tank at Era 1, where you can manually activate it yourself. It doesn't automatically go, and I know again that is something that annoys people with the Swedish mediums, is that automatic siege mode, whereas this one you can choose to have it or not pretty much. But if you don't use the siege mode, you will have worse DPM and worse accuracy. It's trade-offs. But yeah, on the whole, I think it's a pretty solid tank. For 12k gold as well, considering it's tier 9, and a lot of the tier 9s are like 17k, that's not too bad either. If you like tanks like Leopards, I think you'll possibly enjoy this tank. If you don't like tanks with no armour whatsoever, you won't like this tank, because this tank does have absolutely no armour. So that's the disclaimer on that. So, let's get into the stats of the Kunze Panzer. It's a really cool looking tank, by the way. I really like the look of it anyway. And, yeah, here we go. It's got 610 horsepower with a 65 km/h top speed and a 23 km/h reverse speed. With a 21.79 horsepower per ton, you really do hit that 65 km/h quite nicely. It does feel a little bit sluggish off the mark, but once you get going, easily hit that 65 km/h top speed. Now this is where the first of the hidden stats comes in for the tank, because for some reason there's nowhere in this stats page that tells you what your stats are when you use the siege mode. So when I get to that stat, I'll tell you what it is when it's in its siege mode. So with the top speed in the siege mode, you go from 65 km/h to 30 km/h in the siege mode, which is a hell of a lot slower. It's the trade-off for having the better gun handling and the better DPM. And on the reverse speed, you go from 23 to 17 km/h reverse speed. So just bear that in mind. When you do go into the siege mode, you will be a hell of a lot slower. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And your engine power, by the way, goes from 610 to 420. So naturally, you're just a lot slower. So you get 1600 hit points for a tier 9 medium, which is pretty decent. That's about average, which is nice. You get 42 degrees a second hull rotation speed, which is pretty quick. Sometimes it feels a little bit slow though. I don't know what it is. It's sometimes you're thinking, oh, I'll just go try and out traverse this tank, and you just don't do it. And you're like, oh, I was thinking that would be better. So 42 degrees a second, sorry, not kilometers an hour. 42 degrees a second is still solid, and that's pretty decent. You've got a 2.2 soft terrain resistance with a 1.1 medium and a 1 on firm. These two terrain resistance, the medium and firm, is actually really good. The soft terrain resistance is a little bit worse. Now, you might want to help that with off-road driving, but to be honest, like I say, it hits that 65 km/h top speed really easily, so there's not much need for it. Now, bear in mind, this has got camo on it. I've got some of the camo on it from the Arnie op, and from the Tank Cup ops we've just got. So that's knocked it down a little bit. I think it was 320 or something, or maybe 330 beforehand. But we've got 315... or 314.65, 315 rounded up, to the steel concealment, which is absolutely fantastic. The camo on this tank is utterly incredible, and you just for me personally, the way I did it was kit the tank out for camo, because the amount of times you stay unspotted is insane, and it's a really nice feature for the tank to have, and you'll see that in some of the replays. This camo is really good. The on the move as well, 344, is okay as well. You can knock that down with silent driving. You got 400 meters of view range as well. which is great. You're going to have absolutely no problem with 400 meters of view range, and you can get that up with coated optics to an absolutely solid level using situational awareness and stuff like that as well. You've got a 37 degrees a second turret traverse, so the turret rotation will not keep up with your hull, so bear that in mind if you are trying to get a shot on a tank and you turn the hull and the turret at the same time. The turret's going to lag behind the hull a little bit, so just keep that in mind when you are trying to get those shots. Accuracy during turret rotation is 1.33, which is not great but not bad. You'll make that better with crew skills and stuff like that. You've got 20 degrees of elevation, which you've got to be careful of because you don't quite have that over the rear and stuff like that. The gun depression angles are kind of odd with this tank, where it's like 15 over the front, but the further you get to your side and your rear, the less gun depression you have, and the elevation kind of does the same. But so just beware of the elevation when you're trying to shoot at stuff behind you and stuff like that, and they're above you. You've got 15 degrees of depression as well, which you have in both modes, but it's... Again, only over the front. You start to lose more and more as you go with the side armor and over the side and stuff. It's really weird. I wish I could show you with the gun depression angles. But 15 degrees of gun depression is absolutely fantastic. That is one of the best in the game. It's absolutely incredible. You can use ridge lines so much. The only thing with this 15 degrees of gun depression is, like I say, with the siege mode, where the siege mode is a bit weird. You have to aim down to get the actual gun depression you want, which can make getting the shot on your target a lot slower. And also, if you hit a little bump on the ridge or you move a little bit too much to the left and right of your gun depression, the reticle bounces a bit, which can be a bit frustrating, which is where the siege mode can be a bit frustrating. So you just got to bear that in mind as well. Now, you have a 9.8 second reload with 0.36 accuracy. This is outside the siege mode. When you are in the siege mode, you have 9.3 second reload instead of 9.8, so that's a whole 0.5 off of it. And a 0.3 accuracy, which is so much better than this 0.36. And that makes the accuracy absolutely fantastic. So just bear in mind, if you switch to siege mode, you will get a 0.3 accuracy and a 9.3 second reload instead of what it's telling you here. But for some reason, like I say, it just doesn't tell you in the stats. It's something that they're probably going to have to focus in at some other point, seeing as this is the second only tank with the manual siege mode that is a medium tank, essentially. 3.51 accuracy during movement is pretty pathetic. That is really bad. You can knock that down with run and gun a lot, though, and you'll knock that down a lot more. If you were to run vert stabs as well, you could knock it down even more. But to be honest, I tend to be firing a lot more from stationary positions. And the only time I am firing on the move is when I'm making an aggressive play into a position and I have a shot at someone else that's like in the open or on the move or something like that. So it is bad, but you know, you can make it better if you want. It doesn't factor in too much. And you've got a 2.3 second aim time outside of the siege mode, and it is a 2.3 second aim time outside of the siege mode. In the siege mode, you have a 1.8 second aim time, which is absolutely fantastic. And again, there's another reason why you want to use the siege mode wherever you can when you've got chances to shoot, because you'll fire faster, you'll hit more shots because you're more accurate, and your aim time, you'll just get the gun in on target a lot faster as well. So yeah, bear that in mind. You have APCR as standard with heat and HE. So heat's the premium round. On the shell velocity, you actually have 1478 on the APCR, which is absolutely fantastic. Always great to have that sort of shell velocity on the APCR, because you will hit most shots you're going to take on leading, you know, when you're having to lead targets that are on the move and stuff like that. It means that you're not going to struggle with really derpy accuracy. It will just hit if you lead it correctly. Now, you do have to bear in mind that if you switch to the heat, it does get slower, so it's at 1,173, so it is a hell of a lot slower than the APCR, and you really do have to adjust for it, but it's still not slow. That's still pretty good. You've got 268 pen on your APCR, with 300 pen on the heat, and note that the APCR drop-off over distance is actually not that much at all on this tank, which is really random. But yeah, you've got 300 heat as well, which is great. You'll pen everything you're going to face with that 300 heat, and 268 means that you'll generally not have to fire that much premium at all, because that penetration standard is fantastic. And yeah, the one thing I'm going to point out is the fact that this tank doesn't have any armour whatsoever. So as you see, you've got this 40mm bar on top of that little ring on your turret, which means that any tank that is, and on the upper plate by the way, Any tank that has 121mm caliber guns, so a lot of the Russian guns, a lot of the Chinese guns, there's a lot of guns really at tier 9 and 10 that will overmatch your upper plate and this little bit of turret. So if they catch you with their gun, they just automatically pen. Add to the fact you've only got like, 70mm, 63mm of armor on the turret front anyway. This tank doesn't have any armor whatsoever. The 50mm of lower plate armor means that you'll have to have a 151mm caliber gun to overmatch it. So if you're shooting this tank, just hit the upper plate because you'll pen it most of the time. And on the side armor, you actually have 30mm of armor as well, which means that 91 plus caliber guns will pen this side armor automatically and overmatch you automatically. So just bear that in mind, this tank doesn't have any armor whatsoever. So in terms of equipment, I run rammer, camo net, and optics. Now I run that because the camo is absolutely dirty with a camo net. Optics, I want to make my view range as good as possible. I want to get to those aggressive positions where I can sort of sit and not get spotted, and I can spot the enemy team and stuff like that, get good assistance damage. And a rammer to make my DPM 10% better, because you always want to do that. Now, if you wanted to and you decide, you know what, I don't want to make my camo better, you could take the camo net off and put vert stabs on if you want to make it far more accurate. If the gun annoys you enough, you put vert stabs on instead of camo net, sorry. Or you can put vents on instead of optics to make everything about your tank generally better. Or you could run traction system to get way quicker. With 65 kilometers an hour, you'll hit 71 kilometers an hour outside of the siege mode. And in the siege mode, you'll hit 36. No, might be 33 actually. Sorry, because it'll be 10% at 30. So you'll hit 33 instead. But you'll have way better track traverse as well. So it's up to you. It's up to you how you want to set it up. I wanted to set it up for camo because it has no armor, so I don't want people to be looking at me. And quite frankly, the camo is absolutely disgusting in this tank. So let's put my crew in it as well, which I've been hiding away in the T55A. And so on the skills on Arnie that I've been, and my new Arnie 2D crew that I got, we've got Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, and Muffled Shot. These camo perks, because again, I am full camo building this tank to make it really good. The Silent Driving will make its camo really great on the move. Camouflage Expertise naturally 10% better on camo, and 35 increase to shooting camouflage. So basically, it decreases the amount that my camo will be affected by firing. Again, when I take those aggressive positions, firing through bushes and stuff, it's really great. It means that it's a struggle to spot this tank with the camo. Steady aim, because you want to make your accuracy 10% better. Always run and gun to make yourself 10% more accurate, which is what I want to do. And then these 4 perks, because you're pretty much going to take these on every single tank you're going to play. And yeah, let's put this in the Kunze Panzer and have a quick look at what its stats turn into when you are in that, well, when you've got those crew and equipment on. So as you can see, the DPM is, well, the reload now is 7.15 seconds outside of the siege mode, which is great. It was 6.8 or nearly 6.7 in the siege mode, which is nice. You've got a 0.29 accuracy, that's outside of the siege mode again. I'm not sure what it's gone down to in the siege mode because I don't have those stats. I don't have the effective values for those sorts of stats. 2.12 aim time as well, which naturally means that's probably gone down to about 1.7, 1.6 aim time in the siege mode. Absolutely fantastic. And yeah, this is why you don't need to run vert stabs, because it's a 0.29 accuracy without the vert stabs. And with the vert stabs, it's going to be even better. And obviously in the siege mode, that's going to be way lower. That's going to be like 0.26, 0.25, something like that. And it's going to be, this gun handling is going to be good enough. And you're going to see it does feel good enough without the vert stabs. And as you can see with the view range, you've got 512 meters view range with the optics, which naturally means that you're going to outspot you're going to spot most things you're going to face, and you're going to get damn good assistance damage because you are going to spot a lot of tanks. Add to that, you've got 260 meters of still concealment with 272 on the move. This camo is absolutely fantastic, and it really is very, very dirty, and you really want to make the most of it because you can outspot so many people, and people really do struggle to spot you unless you like fire and you're out in the open. It's really, really nice. As you can see, the accuracy during rotation has gone down to 1.17, and the accuracy during movement's gone down to 2.5 as well, and that's with the run and gun and stuff like that. But yeah, on the whole, this tank is just pretty damn nice. You know what? I will show you quickly what happens if you put vents on instead. So we go back to it, look, and you can see the reload's now 6.97. Not quite sure what that would be with the standard, with the siege mode reload. You've got even better accuracy during movement, a little bit better rotation. Aim time's gone down a little bit more. Your view range is still at 476, which is absolutely fantastic still, but it's not quite as good as 512. But, you know, it's still a lot more usable. So if you have lots of things that annoy you about tank, you know, just take vents instead. It's completely up to you. But on the whole, yeah, the Kunze Panzer, I really have enjoyed playing this tank so far. I think it's a really solid tank. It's the type of tank that, again, if you don't like tanks with no armour, you're probably not going to enjoy it. But if you do like tanks with that really good camo, you don't mind not having armour and pretty damn good guns when you're on the siege mode, you'll enjoy the tank. Just bear in mind that the siege mode can be a bit clunky, and you've just got to get used to it, essentially. So it's whether you want to use the tank with that sort of siege mode. But anyway, let's get into the replays where you can see what the tank handles like. You can see the difference between the siege mode and the non-siege mode, and just some of the weird stuff it does do with the siege mode, and also the suspension is a bit funny. But you'll see that when you get into the replays. So as always, everybody, I will send you over there. So here we are on the replays with the Kunze Panzer, and the first replay we are on steps, and this is probably the more average game I've had in the tank, really, and kind of shows you some of the downsides to the tank, but some of the upsides, really, because the gun depression being really nice, the mobility is good, it helps you get into good positions, the camo being nice, but then also sort of the weird way the siege mode can be. Because the siege mode can be, it's one of those things, the siege mode can be really frustrating, because there's just weird bobbles, where the tank just decides, the gun's just going to go, wee, whoop, I'm back, and you get to shoot, and it's a little bit annoying. But it can also be pretty decent. So you can see here, we're going at 65 kilometers an hour nearly, and it's like, oh, look, a light tank on the move. Yeah, straight in, why not? Because just RNG, right? I mean, that is, like I say, without vert stabs, you can see the aim time is a little, well, it's not long, but it's a little bit longer in the siege, outside of the siege mode, I should say. But with the good mobility, we've got into the position we want to be in. And I decided, you know what, I don't want to be in the siege mode at this point, because I want to be able to just wait, because it takes 2 seconds to activate the siege mode. And if you get this tank and you don't know how to activate the siege mode, like it is with the Swedish TDs and that, for me it's right on the D-pad, but just double check your controller outlays, because it might be different on other people's controllers, essentially. But for me, it's right on the D-pad. I press that and I get my siege mode. And it takes 2 seconds to get the siege mode, which sometimes you can lose a shot in that 2 seconds, so there's not too much point in running that and ruining your shot, essentially. You may as well just keep in outside of the siege mode, have worse DPM and accuracy like that, but still have the ability to shoot the tank. As you see in here again with the GW Tiger, now that I have fired at that guy, it's like, well, you know what, I'll just switch into the siege mode. And there we've switched into the siege mode. We did forget about that tiger shark. To be honest, I thought the tiger shark could run because I didn't spot it, but it is what it is. And I'm just trying to bring the gun up with, again, with the suspension there. I was trying to bring the gun up because the suspension wasn't quite letting me get there, and we unfortunately didn't manage to get there to get the shot at him. And that guy did take a lot of our hit points. We're up to 1600 damage with 1300 assistance. It's like, right, okay, I'll finish off this tiger. That tiger literally just went, oh, tank, smash, and penned us automatically, because, like I say, this tank doesn't have any armour whatsoever. So if anyone does look at you, they will pen you. Much like the TL7 there, as we're shooting him. 1 through his cupola, 1 straight through his turret face, because that tank basically has no armour. And unfortunately, we can't quite get to the position to get a shot at him. But now we're just going to try and see if we can move up a little bit and get some shots out. But I'm being careful because naturally that TL7 did hit us and put us down to a 257 hit point margin of error, essentially. So basically 1 shot from anything is going to kill us. So I don't want to take the risk there. So we poked over casually, slowly, to see if see if we get detected, essentially, see if there's anything that could shoot us. Nothing could. We saw the T-54 was running away, so it's like, okay, that T-54 was running away, he's run to D5. That makes me pretty confident that there's actually nothing in a position where it can shoot us. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into a better position to try and get some shots into the back of these guys, try and attack this convoy. So as we're going to get there through this bush, it's like, okay, I want to get into the siege mode, get my better DPM, get my better accuracy ready to shoot them. So as we come round, we spot this T-29, we get a nice shot into him for 340, which is a low roll, but when you see some of the heavy tanks and you see some of the rolls you get on them, sometimes you think they're definitely running something like armor angling or that advanced armor just to reduce your alpha. The Conway is now being ganged up on by my entire team, so it's like, well, I may as well come help and get a shot at him, because I'm now not afraid that he's just going to poke around and absolutely slap me up. So we're going to poke over, see if we can get a shot at this T29, and there you saw the bobble that can be really annoying at times. For some reason, it just bobbled up for no reason whatsoever. And now we're just looking for a shot at the IS-2, which we miss. And again, with this IS-2, you're going to see a bit of funniness with the reticle, where it just, because I'm not quite pointing at him, the gun just ends up hitting the floor and aiming at the floor instead. A little bit annoying, but it is what it is. Bit of a slimmer shot though, and the shot goes flying straight in because 0.3 accuracy is nice. We switch back to the travel mode to have better movement, so we can try and get a shot at this 430 or the Carnarvon. The Carnarvon gets shut down. Outside of the siege mode, the gun handling can be a bit annoying, and unfortunately that one just hit the floor, which meant that we didn't get any more damage. But we do finish with an epic victory, the 3 kills, 3.9k damage, 1600 assistance, the Confederate, the second class, 1395 base XP. A decent game for the Kunze Panzer, which, like I say, if you're using the siege mode, the gun handling can be absolutely fantastic and really nice. You just have to bear with the siege mode and its jankiness at times. And you can see the little bits of weirdness with the siege mode just in that first replay where, like I say, because I wasn't quite pointing my aim at the tank, the gun ended up just pointing at the little bit of ridgeline in front of him instead of exactly where I was aiming, which put me off a little bit, confused me a little bit. I was like, wait, so where's my gun? Wait, I'm aiming above, but the gun's shooting below. Like, what? That's weird. And then the random little bits of bobble. So in this second game, we're on Kaunas, and it's encounter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge to the position at D5 because I like that position. That position is good on encounter from our spawn to counter their team crossing the AB line or anyone that ends up at the houses at C6. Because from that position, you can spot them crossing, feed your team assistance, and also get a fair bit of damage yourself. So as we're crossing to it, there's the Conqueror. It's like, okay, I got detected and spotted. It's this T-54 lightweight. Bad shot, really. Hit the floor there. It was poor aim. We switch into the siege mode, though, so we can have that better accuracy and better DPM. We slap the shot into him. He ends up damaging our fuel tanks, which I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to leave those fuel tanks damaged because, well, it will just set me on fire. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for our camo to disappear. Now our camo's disappeared, we're going to see if we can poke out and shoot this Conqueror. And as you can see, we managed to fire at that Conqueror without even getting spotted. And now I'm aiming up for his tracks, hopefully track him in place, but it doesn't quite happen. We get another shot into his lower plate without getting spotted. This is where the camo is really dirty and really nice. We finally get spotted there, but we end up spotting the Shashka and getting a nice shot into the back end of the Conqueror. That Shashka is completely out in the open, and he ends up getting shut down. We're just waiting for this Conqueror to make a mistake. I was hoping he'd drive out, and he's not quite doing it, but then again, he finally does, and we shut down the Conqueror. Now there's a heavy tank crossing the open in the middle, and it's like, well, okay, I'm just going to come over here and start shooting this T-32. And this is where we're just going to get a bit funny with the reticle. Like I say, it bobbles a lot, which can put a lot of people off. It's a bit weird, but we do manage to get the shot into that guy, and we managed to slap a shot into the back of him, and the Super Sherman shuts him down. So now we're going to attack the guys that are at CD56, because again, we've got the gun depression, we can use the ridgeline. Tried to get a shot into his drive wheel, but it just misses, unfortunately. Notice the T-54 coming up in the middle. It's like, right, okay, we're just going to pull forward, get to this ridge, get behind this rock so that those, like that T-54 can't shoot me in the side. And now we've got shots at this STA-1. And it's like, well, I'm just going to put my pretty decent DPM to use here to keep pummeling shots into him. But unfortunately, he just gets behind his cover in the windmill. And it's like, right, okay, you know what? If you're going to stay there, sir, I'm going to try and get a shot at this Deathstalker. Have no idea where that shot went. No idea, but unfortunately we missed that Deathstalker. I don't know where that shot went. That was a weird one. We're trying to take a blind shot because we did get detected as we pulled around the corner, and I thought maybe it was the STA-1 that just was hidden with his camo around that corner. And what was I saying about having no armor? I just ricocheted a shot from that T-54. Yeah, well, it's still angles, right? And yeah, we managed to shut down, well, the TL7 Black actually shuts him down. We get a nice shot in to finish off the Deathstalker, and it's like, oh no, that's a Pleb Panzer. So you know what? We're going to try and track him in place, but just as we're about to track him in place and keep him tracked for our team where they were shooting him, the Super Sherman just knocks us out of the way a little bit, which means we still pen him, but we didn't get to track him in place in front of our allies, and we end up getting shut down by the Kunze Panzer, which is sad, sad times. But fortunately enough for us, our team does manage to carry the victory through. We finished the game with 2 kills, 5k damage, 1100 assistance. The second class, the high caliber, 1572 base XP, a pretty decent game again for the Kunze Panzer. And really, that game kind of showed what the tank ends up being like if you play it a little bit too aggressively and end up with being the focus of the enemy team, in the fact that we basically just got wrecked pretty quickly, because we managed to get like, 3k damage before we'd taken any major hits, and then we managed to build up an extra 2k damage, but everyone started shooting at us and our HP just evaporated really, really quickly, which is, not good for us. So we're on to the third replay, the penultimate replay, and we're on Muravanka, and this was actually the first game I played in the tank. So what I was going to do, I was thinking, you know what, we're going to use the mobility. As you can see, there's a bit of a funny bug with the gun actually being lower than the reticle. It's really weird again, but that's just a bug. We're going to use our mobility and get to these ridges over here and try and, again, put the gun to work, put our camo to work and our spotting range. The gun does bobble up there a little bit, but we do manage to still hit the TVP VTU, fortunately enough. And now we're just going to try and creep over the ridgeline and keep the gun at the Chi Ri. But number one, he's behind cover, so that wasn't going to hit him anyway. But you could just see, I wasn't moving, but the gun was bobbling because reasons. The siege mode, for some reason, in this game is really janky, and it does like to bobble, but then sometimes it doesn't at all, and you sit there going, what was the difference between the last time and the other time, right? Sometimes it is where you are, sometimes you're just looking over the left-hand side of the tank rather than over the front, so the gun depression is changing a little bit with it, but that's really annoying, and like I say, it leads to that really frustrating bobble, which can absolutely muck with your shots. But so far we're up to 1200 damage, and it's like, okay, hello Mr. TVP, let me just shut you down, and I couldn't quite find him, and unfortunately hit the ridgeline, but we're in the siege mode, so our reload's pretty damn decent. You know what? I'm going to take the hit from the skull cap, which is not a tank you see very often. Take the hit from him to shut down the tier 8 medium tank. And now we get to also shut down that skull cap because our friend went over on him. I'm just trying to find a shot at this Chi Ri or the Ragnarok from up here, but it's not quite working because just the way the suspension is a bit wonky when you are looking over the back of your tank and going up a ridgeline. So we switch out the siege mode and go back to our travel mode. That way we can get over this side a little bit quicker and hopefully get there to get a shot into someone. We don't need the siege mode there to get a shot into that Ragnarok. We do get to shut him down. And again, I just want to keep my speed at this point. So we're going to pop over, shoot the CS-52 Lease, 420, nice roll, and he gets shut down by the M46. Now we're going to be reloaded to finish off the Chi Ri there, and there goes that guy too. And we're up to 4 kills with 2.7k damage so far, which is really nice. The standard B is out in the open behind the buildings, but our team has currently lost that fight towards the cap, because most of their team is over there, so what we want to do is hot-foot it towards the cap as quickly as humanly possible. Now, it's nice if some of your team do go along the K line, because they can use the bushes over there to shoot people through the middle or along the 2 line without getting spotted if they use the bushes correctly. But the best way to push the cap in that middle area, well, that middle area where the cap is right now, is to use the buildings as cover and push as aggressively as you can towards this ridge line here. Using this ridge line, you can stay under cover and under their guns, and you can use your gun depression to get shots into them. So we just look at the shot of the 704, and it's like, wait a minute. The destructible cover takes the shot. We've just heard this 704 fire, so I was confident in getting the shot into him and putting him down to a 1-shot, but actually we managed to high roll, which shuts him down, which is nice. We're up to 3.6k damage with 5 kills. Then we spot this T30, and it's like, that's a T30, that's not good. I thought I'd just chance it because we need to reset the cap. And yeah, the T30 ends up absolutely blapping us, but we do get a nice shot into him. We get a shot into the VZ44 one there, 450. That is a pretty damn nice roll. This Scorpion, or the M56, is out in the open, so we've got a nice shot into him. And that guy is in the perfect place for us to keep shooting. 439, these rolls in this game. Woo! And we end up getting the 6th kill, which is the top gun. We're up to 5.2k damage, made that 5.6k damage. That T-30 was coming for us, so I was like, you know what, I'm tracking him in place. I'm going to keep him away from me. And fortunately enough, our team managed to shut him down, and he didn't get to shoot us. There's only 2 tanks left. We switch out the siege mode to get that speed to get up the hill to try and get shots at them, but unfortunately, we don't quite get there. But we do finish the game with 6 kills, the epic victory, 5.6k damage, the first class, top gun, the high caliber, 1810 base XP. A really nice game for the Kunze Panzer. Really fun game, really. This is exactly what the Kunze Panzer wants to do. Use its mobility, its pretty good mobility, use its pretty good DPM, and use its really good camo to decent effect. But in that game, we didn't really use our camo as much because we were more in people's faces. But that's where the mobility for the tank really helped. And then when we wanted to, we could switch to the siege mode where we needed and get the better DPM and the better accuracy and all that sort of stuff. So on to the 4th and final replay, and this is the best game I've had in the tank, and we are on Lakeville. And so, we're in a tank that can go 65 kilometers an hour, has absolutely dirty camo, and really great view range. So what I'm going to do is go to the position at E4, because that is a great position for a tank like this on this map, because we can spot a lot of their tanks that will be crossing, as we've already spotted 2, but stay unspotted ourselves, which is nice. So we spot the Leopard PTA and the light tank, and I'm looking at them, and I'm going, do I want to shoot them? Not really, because they will spot me probably. As you can see, I'm getting assistance from my team. So what we're going to do is shoot this 53 TP because we spot him crossing. We use the rock on our left to keep us covered from the Leopard PTA so he doesn't spot us. And we're also pulling back a little bit to keep our distance from this 53 TP. Now, I was waiting there to get a shot at his back end to try and track him in place. But unfortunately, it didn't quite work and we didn't track him in place, but we did pen him. We pull forward to try and spot this leopard. At this point, we know we're going to get spotted. We do get a shot into him. And we're up to 1,200 assisters with 1,200 damage so far. I'm like, right, okay, we're switching out the siege mode now. We don't need the accuracy, don't need the DPM. I want to use my mobility to get up to this hill over here. Because from this hill over here, I can spot the people that sit at K6. I can shoot those light tanks. I can shoot where that Leopard PTA was going. But I can also spot anyone that was camping at, yeah, like I say, K6. And I didn't spot them. But I do spot this bar, or this Bayer. And it's like, oh, hello, Mr. Bayer. I don't really want to take a hit from you because you will probably one-shot me. Well, or at least take most of my hit points anyway. But apparently this King Dragon doesn't care, and he rushes out in front of the Bayer. The Bayer ends up missing him. We try and find a shot in the lower plate, but you can see the gun was bobbling a little bit there, and it's like, oh, come on, gun. But it was also a bad shot because we didn't actually have his lower plate, but this guy distracting him means that we get a nice shot into his back end, and hopefully we'll get to finish him off. But that shot ricochets off his ass. And it's like, you what, mate? You what, mate? Okay, but we get a nice shot into the Astron Rex, which tracks him in place, which means he takes a hit, which gives us a little bit of assistance, but we are spotting these guys also. So, right now I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to switch back into the travel mode so I can get further forward quickly and try and spot these guys again. So, I was anticipating that these guys have pulled all the way back, maybe pulled into the ditch, but actually we catch this Barask out, and there's a Sturm Tiger P as well, which we've got to be careful of because, again, he has a massive gun and it will hurt. We slam a shot through his upper plate, though, because at a weird angle it's easy to pen. And you can see the assistance damage is starting to rack up. This Sturm Tiger P is making a mistake. He should have stayed exactly where he was because he had shots at me and there I wouldn't have been able to poke around that corner very reliably at all because he probably would have absolutely slapped me up and I didn't want that. Now this Mauschan is coming around and it's like, oh god, this guy is literally charging. He's got all the armor, he's got hard-hitting gun, and naturally he doesn't care, seemingly. So we slammed 2 shots into his lower plate, and he's still charging. He's actually firing HE, which is lucky for me, because if he was slamming AP, he probably would be penning, well, he would be penning me every time. I'm quite lucky that he isn't actually penning with the HE either, but then again, I think he's only got like 50 pen on that HE, and well, I do have 40mm of armor on the upper plate, and 50 on the lower plate. It's angled, so it's slightly more effective. But because HE doesn't overmatch, yeah, HE doesn't overmatch. But we do manage to get a hefty bit of assistance on him. We managed to get a few shots of damage on him. But, unfortunately, with his HE, he did damage our ammo rack, which is really annoying, which kills our DPM. So we only managed to get 1 shot into the equalizer. But once again, we were spotting him. Now, I know there was a T-28 prototype somewhere around this corner, so I'm just slowly but surely pulling round to find him. But it's like, okay, he's not here, so he must have pulled into the ditch. I'm thinking maybe he has run towards his one remaining medium tank, but no, he hasn't. He's just still there. We aim the shot at his turret cheek, but it doesn't go through. I forget that that tank actually has had its turret cheeks buffed, which means I'm probably around a 50-50 to go through it. But if I load heat, I'm not going to have an issue whatsoever with his turret cheeks. He's also stock, so he only has the 105 firing at us, which means he didn't do too much damage to us, but he unfortunately did damage our gun, which is a little bit annoying because that makes our accuracy poor. But it is what it is. We're up to 6k damage with 4k assistance, and we're going after the last tank. And yeah, this tank, and you'll notice when you're going over ridge lines and stuff like that, this tank is really weird with the suspension, that it kind of bobbles when you're going over ridges and stuff. And by that, I mean when you go over a ridge line, it's like your tank jumps up and then goes vertical. And then you sit there going, wait a minute, what? And then there's a lot of times where you'll end up flipping it, so just be careful of that. But we do manage to get there to shoot the Object 705 in the back. The Charioteer finishes them off, and we finish the game with a victory. 6.5k damage, 4.1k assistance, that's what, 10.5k combined. The ace tank of the high caliber, the sniper, the Confederate, 2.1k base XP, a really great game for the Kunze Panzer, a tank that is, I think, really pretty solid, to be honest. I think it's one of those that, with the siege mode, will probably annoy people because of the bubbles and the randomness, because a lot of people don't like the siege mode. And if you don't like a tank that has no armour, don't get this tank because it has no armour. But on the whole, I think for medium tank lovers, you probably will enjoy this tank, and I certainly do. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.